This week, Johannesburg will host one of the most significant legal events on the African continent, the Legal Innovation Summit 2025. This landmark summit brings together leading voices in law, technology, and business to explore how rapid technological advances, particularly artificial intelligence, those are transforming the practice and business of law here in this country and beyond. At the center of this conversation is Naomi Thompson, legal innovation expert and Managing Director of CatalyNT, who is spearheading this vital gathering of legal minds. With global trends reshaping the profession, the summit will examine key issues such as responsible AI governance, cybersecurity, and the evolving role of in-house legal teams as strategic business leaders. Well, Naomi Thompson joins us now for a conversation about that. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming through.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all your listeners and viewers this afternoon.
Sure. The Legal Innovation Summit, what are we talking about? What innovation are we looking at within the legal sector?
Yes, of course. So if you think about the legal industry as a traditional industry, we are very pragmatic, we are very paper-driven and also very manual processes. You think about going to your lawyer and you're looking for legal advice or how they can support you. Generally, it takes much longer because it's a people-driven and a people-focused. You use your knowledge that's in your head, all the years of expertise. But now, how are we looking at delivering that service? How are we looking at using tools like technology, like AI, to help us just better deliver legal services, whether it's to the everyday client or whether it's to corporations and companies?
Yeah. Is it about grappling with the fact that these technologies can be a bit of a double-edged sword, in that you have one development, for instance, enabling you guys to now be able to file your papers with ease, court online, case lines and the likes, but at the same time, you then face your ethical challenges around AI.
Yeah, that's exactly what we will be discussing. We're looking at what are policies that we can put in place as a country to look at responsible AI, look at how to use it responsibly, because like you mentioned, it is a double-edged sword. In one, and I'll talk about two areas in which it's a double-edged sword. So in one area, you have AI that improves your timelines, that improves your deep research that you are doing to be able to deliver that quicker and easier. But what does that mean for people? What does it mean for everyone? Asks me, and this is a question that people come up against. Will AI replace lawyers? Will AI replace people? And you know what, right now it's a no, but we don't know what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years time because it's advancing so rapidly. But what I tell lawyers is ensure that you are at the forefront of that. We have to enhance our own skills, whether we're still law students, whether we are junior or senior within organizations. If we know how to use the AI, you always need the human in the loop. And that leads me right into the second part of the double-edged sword. You must have read numerous times that were hallucinations.
Yes.
So fake cases were presented. So that shows you that you always need to have the human judgment. Just because we are using tools right now and that tool happened to be AI does not mean we give up our responsibility of ensuring that it's correct, ensuring that we have double-checked and we have verified what we are using. So in that instances, there are pros and cons, but there are pros and cons to anything, right? Yeah. When mechanization started, everyone said, will we lose jobs?
The machines are going to replace all of us.
The machines are going to replace us. And at every revolution, there was a loss of jobs, but what it actually meant, new jobs were coming out.
So what's the conversation around regulation? And I know that you are a stringently regulated, the two professions, attorneys and advocates, stringently regulated, high bar for ethics and the likes. Is that conversation happening around the ethics of AI, or are we learning as we go, as and when lawyers trip up with those AI hallucinations? The one case involved a high number of fake cases that just didn't happen. But what's the conversation happening around regulation?
So look, that conversation is happening. But I think that the evolution of AI, or how quickly it's coming up, is almost running away from how quickly we can regulate. And then when we look at regulation and policy, you can't strictly regulate how this will be used. But what the conversation is happening around policy. So how do we look at responsible AI being utilized and being implemented? That's happening in South Africa, but it's also happening globally. And I think the EU is slightly ahead of where South Africa is. There is the working group on responsible AI, and one of our speakers will actually come and engage on those conversations. But this is where it's at platforms like the Innovation Summit, where we are actually thoroughly engaging around those kind of conversations. So what needs to be done? What are some of those measures that we put in place? We have other pieces of legislation that we need to comply with. For example, personal protection of information. How do you ensure that you comply with all of those pieces of legislation? But then it also comes to organizational level, right? And organizations can't necessarily restrict their entire business and say, we are not going to use AI, because they're going to end up losing their competitive advantage as an organization. So now you look at what are the principles that we put in place for people to use it, and then from those principles, you then constantly check, you constantly understand what is evolving, what are we learning, what are we not learning. And I read somewhere in the week where some businesses are taking a back seat. Law firms and corporations alike, and says, we will watch and see what someone else is doing for AI, and then we're going to implement it. Doing nothing is also a decision.
It's not, it's not an option.
It's not an option. It's also a decision. And that's a riskier decision than doing something, maybe getting it wrong, but having learnings for your organization that you can learn from and then implement and then be ahead of your competitors.
And I understand that one of the big topics you'll be discussing will be cybersecurity. And that's a fascinating area for you as lawyers, isn't it? Because you're not only people who run businesses, firms that need to be alert and awake to cybersecurity threats, but also you at the same time are helping your clients to navigate this minefield of cybersecurity.
Yes. And you know, this is what we say to our lawyers, the current ones and the lawyers of the future, that we are business advisors. Yes, you have a law degree, but there's all of these challenges that organizations are grappling with. Cybersecurity, like you've just accurately mentioned, being one of them. Millions are being lost by not ensuring that we have the right controls in place, that we are managing it correctly. Then you take it one step further, you look at deepfake. In terms of AI, how many organizations, and deepfake comes in your voice, video. Just last week or 2 weeks ago, a client the financial manager received a video call from her director to say that she must transfer X amount of US dollars. It all looked like it was absolutely the person that called it, but that was a video call. So they are able to take and we are having a conversation right now. Our voices, our faces can be replicated. But now how do we ensure that we are ahead of these cyber crimes, ahead of these challenges that we'll be facing? And there's no right answer, right? We are also grappling with it. I think it is in Denmark that they are looking at how do you assign to my voice or to your voice or to our images some rights, intellectual property rights. But you can't always regulation. We have to have regulation, but it's not good enough. There is more that we need to do. We need to be proactive. We need to have teams in place that are almost testing our systems, that are testing our staff, so that we are able to identify how this comes up.
That's easier said than done, isn't it?
Of
Given it's a lot of the people who are practitioners in the field run really small law firms without the access and the benefit of an IT department, a cybersecurity department. Usually it's one person and a couple of
maybe two sometimes. But you know, the interesting part is, you were talking about the double-edged sword earlier. Utilizing AI actually ends up giving the smaller law firms, your medium-sized law firms, an opportunity to compete at a level that their larger counterparts are. Because there are tools out there that doesn't require people that can now also help serve as that first level of defense, that can start helping them to either work with large volumes of data without having huge teams. So yes, it is not, it is cumbersome for them maybe to implement it upfront, but it really starts giving them an opportunity to start playing in this field.
So what are the implications of these conversations you'll be having at the Legal Innovation Summit for access to justice for ordinary people? Because the more things move towards a technologically driven sphere, the more questions arise about inclusivity, access, and the likes. Are there avenues that are opening up that will make it possible for some processes that ordinarily would have happened face-to-face, I would have needed to travel to your offices, to now be able to be activated and started even remotely by anyone, someone sitting, I don't know, let me say in Alexandra, being able to access your services through the various media of technology?
So look, access to justice really deals with the individual and how do we able to serve masses better. There are various ways in which we can promote access to justice. Firstly, as organizations are starting to be able to deliver service for their everyday client faster, it allows them capacity with other teams to be able to spend time on what we call pro bono, or to be able to spend time on developing solutions for access to justice. So the conference is primarily focused on the business of law and of law firms, but we bear in mind that everything that happens within legal has got an impact on everyday person. Court processes, in my opinion, is taking way too long. There are cases that is recent in the news that I'm not necessarily going to talk about now. This has taken 20 years. And for an individual person to be able to get the money to go to court and fight huge corporations is not okay. We should not, that is not access to justice. However, what we've done at the conference, we've also brought in smaller technology providers, startups that are busy building solutions right now. They are one of the teams are building for SMMEs. You know, it costs a fortune to be able to go and draft your contract if you're going to sign a contract with a large business, right? But now you have the ability at a lower cost to get the same protections to be able to sign those contracts. They're also building type of platforms where someone can ask questions on WhatsApp. I've been in many hackathons where we were coming up with those solutions, and it's going to come from us. It's going to come from these conversations, and it's going to come from the legal industry themselves. Kalami,
intrigued and enthused. Thank you for coming through. Naomi Thompson, legal innovation expert and the Managing Director of CatalyNT, at the forefront of the Legal Innovation Summit 2025 taking place in Johannesburg.